Right. So in the last class, we were discussing about the basic paper pattern of A2 economics. Then we moved to our assessment objectives portion. Then we discussed a little bit about theory of demand, in which we discussed about utility, Alfred Marshall approach, cardinalist approach, imaginary unit, right? And the theory revolves around a person known as rational consumer, the one who aims to maximize his satisfaction given the price he pays, which means that he wants to maximize the satisfaction of every single penny he spends, right? Then we discuss about this diagram, the MUTU diagram, which I told you that you have to draw in your exam. Don't draw this one. Don't draw this one because it is not that much acceptable. But again, if something in your P3 comes up, then you should know what this diagram is. Now let's talk about the criticisms of Alfred Marshall theory, in which there are a few things that he told us to remember. The first one, he said that utility can be measured in numbers, for which we gave imaginary units known as utils. It's a cardinalist approach. We have fixed income. For him, there is no difference in quality, no role of feedback, no impulse buying, etc. etc. Now, let's talk about the criticism of this theory. The first thing is that utility can never be measured. I mean, if you guys are taking a class, right? And you guys are taking my class, if you are satisfied, if you understand what my lecture is about, that is the reason why you're staying in my class. But you can never measure the utility. You can never the satisfaction that today in sir's class we got 100 utils of satisfaction. Tomorrow he was a bit sick, so we did not enjoy the class. So that is the reason why we got only 40 utils of satisfaction. I mean, you cannot measure the number of utils which you receive after consuming a good or a service. You cannot say that I got 40 utils from a glass of water that I drank, right? So that is the first problem in this approach, that you can never measure utility or satisfaction. The second thing is that there is no such thing as a rational consumer. There is no rational consumer in this world. For instance, that the income is never fixed. First of all, the income is never fixed. Reason being that even if you are a salaried individual, you have deductions, you have bonuses, you have performance related pays, and there are many other things that come into consideration when we talk about a salaried individual. So income is never fixed, especially for a person who is running his own business. The income level changes. The second one is there is a difference in quality. There is always a difference in quality. There is always a difference in quality. For rational consumer, he says that there is no difference in quality. Everything is same and everything is, going on very good. But there is no two things in this world are similar. There is always a difference in quality. For example, Samsung or iPhone. Then we talk about influence of feedback or advertisement. Now, be honest. If a big celebrity is selling you a perfume, we see advertisements on our TVs, on newspapers, social media. Why do big brands hire big celebrities? There is a reason behind it, right? Now, for example, if Shah Rukh Khan is selling a perfume, for me, Shah Rukh Khan, if I'm a fan of Shah Rukh Khan, then for me, if Shah Rukh Khan is selling a perfume, I will buy that perfume, because I will think to myself that if Shah Rukh Khan is selling me this perfume, then he can never be wrong. Shah Rukh Khan is selling it, then it's fine. But if the same product is sold by another celebrity who is a bit, a bit weaker celebrity, or he does not have enough fan following, I might not buy the product because I do not trust him. I trust Shah Rukh Khan that if he's selling, then it's perfect. But I do not trust any other person. So yeah, advertising always influences consumers' behavior. Other thing is feedback. Now, for example, that there is a new restaurant in front of my home, right? And one of my friends, he went to that restaurant, he had a dinner there. So it will be up to me to ask him, if I want to go to that restaurant, if I want to eat something over there, I will first ask my friend, what was the feedback? What did you like? What did you dislike? How is the ambience of that restaurant? And what is the price of specific dishes? How expensive is it? So I will ask for a feedback from my friend because he has already been there. So I cannot take any chances. I cannot take any risk, right? I do not want to waste my money. So feedback or advertisement, it always affects individuals' consumer behavior. Now, a very good example, I'm sitting here in Pakistan. You guys are from Oman, right? You don't know me. You don't know who I am. You must have heard my name somewhere. Your friends must have studied from me. That is the reason why you're studying here right now, right? Because you took a feedback first that how is Sir Abdul Hadi? How does he teach? Is he easy to understand or not? That is the reason why you're sitting here. If you wouldn't have taken my feedback, I don't think that you'll be studying here, right? So feedback matters a lot. But as for the rational consumer approach, the theory of demand approach, Alfred Marshall said feedback is a piece of shit and it doesn't matter. The last thing is impulse buying. When we talk about impulse buying, yes, whenever we go to a market to buy certain things, we always go for impulsive buying. Yeah, we always spend money. Like I told you, no one is this free or this, no one is this lazy that will come back again later on someday. But again, in this world, when you go to buy a good or a service, there is some sort of always impulsive buying. Always an impulsive buying is involved. Like, for example, if you go to a market to buy a t-shirt and you buy a water bottle, to buy a water bottle was not one of your objectives. You were not out in the market to buy a water bottle. But because you got thirsty, you were looking for t-shirts, you bought a water bottle. That water bottle is also a part of impulse buying. Everything clear up till now? So these are a few, what do you say, criticisms of Alfred Marshall theory. Everything clear up till now? Okay, now let's talk about paradox of value. What is paradox of value? You see, in paradox of value, what we see is that depending upon different situations, depending upon different circumstances, right, you get different utility from different goods and services. Now, for example, if I say that, Divansh, I have diamond in my one hand and I have water in my other hand, and you're stuck in a desert, right? You're stuck in a desert, it's scorching heat, it's very hot. I have diamond in my one hand and glass of water in my other hand. What will you select? Water or diamond? Depending upon the situation that you are in. You'll select water. Very good. But if at this stage, at this very moment, you are sitting in your room and your room is chilled with AC and you are just looking at learning in the class and you just everything is very good going on in your life. And at this very moment, if I come to you and ask Divansh, what will you take, diamond or water? What will you select? Diamond, right? So this depends upon the situation that a consumer is in. Sometimes what happens is that things or goods which are very low in value have a higher utility. Now, if I talk about desert, Devansh was stuck in desert, right? What water is a very low in value. Water is very low in value as compared to diamond. Diamond is like millions of dollars or thousands of dollars. But water is nothing. Water is like $1, $2 bottle, right? So sometimes what happens is things which are lower in value have a higher utility than things which are higher in value. For example, in desert. But sometimes things that are higher in value, they have a higher utility. Right now, if I come to Divansh, if Divansh is in his room and I go to him and ask if he wants water or diamond, he will select diamond naturally. So it totally depends upon the situation. It totally depends upon the circumstances, which is known as the paradox of value or diamond water paradox. Everything clear? This is usually tested in your P3, not in your P4. Everything clear? Right. Now, now, let's talk about further limitations of marginal utility theory. We just discussed about the unit of measurement that it cannot be measured, right? There is a problem in measuring utility theory. The other one is habit or impulse. Now, according to utility theory, if you consume more of one good again and again, your additional satisfaction will fall. But why does this case does not apply in smoking? If someone is a cigarette smoker and he's a chain smoker, the more he smokes the cigarette, the more satisfaction he gets. Now, in this assumption, in this situation, this assumption of marginal utility theory is completely useless. If someone drinks alcohol, right? If someone is a drunk and he drinks alcohol again and again, so his satisfaction level will rise the more he consumes alcohol. So sometimes when we talk about habit or impulse, this utility fails. This is useless. The third one is enjoyment may increase as consumption increases. Now let's say I love to work out, I love to go to gym, I love to break my body, I love that, all right? Now, when a person he starts going to a gym, right? When he starts going to the gym, in the first few weeks or the first month, he faces a lot of trouble. He does not know how to do exercise. His body, he has body pains here and there everywhere. His like his body is completely broken. But after a while, after a few weeks or after a few months, when he sees progress in himself, when he stands in front of the mirror and he sees that his body is getting into shape, that is when he will be motivated to work out more effectively, and he will do more hard work in gym, and his enjoyment will increase the more he goes to gym, the more he works out. That is the point here, that your enjoyment may increase as you try to consume more. Same is the case with sports. When you try to learn a specific sport, you are bad, very bad at it, you're very weak at it. But as soon as you play again and again and again, you try to become specialized in that particular sport, you try to excel in that specific sport. So you when you learn more things, you start to enjoy that specific thing. So this is also one of the criticisms of Alfred Marshall utility theory, in which he says that if you consume more one good again and again, your utility will fall. But this is not the case in sports, this is not the case in gym, this is not the case in swimming, all right? Then you have quality and consistency of successive units of a good consumed. Now, let me explain you like this. There are two chocolate brands. One is Bounty, the other one is Kit Kat. Kit Kat has a wafer in it, and the Bounty has what do you say, coconut in it. All right. One is coconut chocolate. The other one is a chocolate which has biscuits or wafers in it. Now, both of them are chocolates. You will refer to them as chocolate. You will not refer to one as coffee, the other one as chocolate. Both of them are chocolates, right? But due to the nature of those goods, due to the taste of those goods, due to the company of those goods, these chocolates taste very differently. I personally don't like Bounty that much because it's very sweet. Kit Kat, on the other hand, I love Kit Kat. Now, if I eat Bounty, my utility will fall because I do not like that chocolate. But if after eating Bounty, if I eat Kit Kat, my utility will rise. What is going on? The difference is the quality, the consistency. Now we will refer to both of them as chocolate. No one can say that Hadi ate toffee at first and then he went for chocolate. Both of them are chocolate, but one chocolate is reducing my utility, the other chocolate is increasing my utility. So overall, the quality matters, consistency matters. The other thing is, other things remain constant. That utility theory, it ignores all the other factors like income and taste and attitudes and all that. But again, it cannot be ignored, and you have to consider all the other factors as well. Everything clear up till now? Right. Let's move towards Equi-Marshall principle. What is Equi-Marshall principle? So in equimarginal principle, what we are doing is we are comparing two goods. Compare satisfaction per price. Compare satisfaction per price of two goods. Now, listen to me very carefully. If I write the definition of a rational consumer in a formula, rational consumer is the one who aims to maximize his satisfaction given the price he pays. Maximize the satisfaction given the price you pay, which means per penny. Maximize the utility over the price you pay. So the basic formula of rational consumer is marginal utility over price. Because I want to find out the utility per price or utility per dollar that I am getting from the consumption of a specific good. All right. So my formula is satisfaction per price mu over p. Now, if I am comparing two goods, if I am comparing satisfaction per price of two goods, I'll be comparing marginal utility of good X over price of good X with marginal utility of good Y over price of good Y. Satisfaction per price from good X versus satisfaction per price from good Y. This is how I will be calculating equimarginal principle. And because I am comparing two goods, if I'm comparing satisfaction per price of two goods, this is known as ordinalist approach. Ordinalist approach. Everything clear up till now? Very good. Now, listen very carefully. Just for the sake of example, I am saying that this good X is Coke and this good Y is 7 Up, just for the sake of example. Now, how my spending pattern works, on Monday, I drink Coke, Tuesday is for 7 Up, Wednesday Coke, Thursday is for 7 Up, Friday Coke, Saturday for 7 Up, Sunday Coke. So I am drinking both the drinks alternatively. On alternate days, I'll drink Coke, on alternate days, I'll drink 7 Up, right? So this is how my consumption pattern is going on right now. Now, for this example, let's take a numerical example as well. This is Coke and this is 7 Up. Now, your main objective is to make both of them equal. Once both of them are equal, once both of them are equal, this will be known as equimarginal principle. Equi means equality. So once they are both equal, this will result in equimarginal principle. And how can you bring both of them equal? Let's say I get 100 utils from Coke and the price of Coke is 10. And I got 200 utils from 7-Up and the price of 7-Up is 20. So overall my ratio is 10 is to 10. This is my equimarginal principle, and at this stage they are both equal. Everything clear up till now? Everything clear up till now? Right, perfect. Now, let's say the price of Coke falls. Price of Coke falls. Now, according to law of demand, if the price of certain good is falling, your quantity demand for that good will rise, right? Now, let's say we're talking about Coke, right? Let me take the utility level still same, that my utility is still 100. But what is my price right now? My price is 5. It was 10 previously, now it's 5. And for 7-Up, it's the same, 200 over 20. So what is my ratio now? My ratio is 20 is to 10, which means, or 2 is to 1. 20 is to 10 or 2 is to 1. Which means that for every one bottle of 7-Up, I am drinking 2 bottles of Coke. For every one bottle of 7-Up, I am drinking 2 bottles of Coke. Which means that for now, Monday, Tuesday, Coke. Wednesday, 7 Up. Thursday, Friday, Coke. Saturday, 7 Up. Sunday, Monday, Coke. Tuesday, 7 Up. Right? So how will my formula be now? MUX over PX, MUY over PY. And you can clearly see for yourself that my ratio is 2:1 now, which means that utility per price from Coke is greater than utility per price from 7 Up. So this is how my equi-marginal principle will turn into, where my utility from good X is greater than my utility from good Y. Right? So I told you my consumption pattern. Monday, Tuesday, Coke. Wednesday, 7 Up. Thursday, Friday, Coke. Saturday, 7 Up. Now at this stage, law of diminishing marginal utility will hit me. Law of diminishing marginal utility says that if you consume more of one good again and again and again, your marginal utility will start to fall. So previously, your denominator was falling, right? Previously, your denominator was falling. Now your numerator will start to fall. Your numerator will start to fall. Let's say it goes to 90. 90 divided by 5 means how much? 18, right? 18. So my ratio will be 18 is to 10. Then it goes to 60. 60 divided by 5 means 12. My ratio will go to 12 is to 1. 12 is to 10. Then it might even go to 40. So my ratio will now be 8. 8 is to 10, right? So my marginal utility will start to diminish. And once my marginal utility start to diminish for Coke, I will move towards 7 Up, regardless the price. It doesn't matter. I'll move towards 7 Up. So now this is how my ratio will be now. Satisfaction per price from 7 Up is more than satisfaction per price from Coke. Now I'm drinking Monday, Tuesday 7 Up, Wednesday Coke, Thursday, Friday 7 Up, Saturday Coke, right? So I will consume 7 Up again and again and again until law of diminishing marginal utility hits me again. Now this time MU of 7 Up will fall. Now let's say 180. 180 over 20, this leads to how much? 90. 9, right? 9. Or it goes to 150. So it divided by 20. So my utility per price from 7 Up will start to fall. And then I'll move towards Coke again. So there will be a spiral. There will be a spiral for me that I am moving from Coke to 7 Up and 7 Up to Coke. I'm switching back and forth again and again until and unless I reach this point where they are both equal again. So the point where they are both equal again is my equilibrium. This is also known as, what is this known as? This is also known as two commodity equilibrium. This is also known as two commodity equilibrium. This is the equilibrium that you will learn later on, because every class in A2 is connected. So you will learn about this equilibrium once again later on in the next class or the class after that. So this is also known as two commodity equilibrium, which is the best point for a rational consumer to operate at. At this point, rational consumer says that my satisfaction per price from both the goods, it at its maximum level, it at its best level, and if I change the consumption, I will affect equilibrium. I will move into disequilibrium. This is where the problem will occur later on. So the best point for you is to operate at an equilibrium stage, that is MUX over PX is equals to MUY over PY. Everything clear? Sir, so what does this help us with? This will help you to draw your equilibrium diagram, which we will learn later on. Which we will learn later. No, in A2 economics, this whole chapter is based on assumptions. It is not practical in real life. I mean, think for yourself, if you are drinking water and you get satisfaction out of it, will you be able to measure it? So this whole chapter is based on assumptions. There is no real life link with it. All right. Clear, Devansh? Okay. All right, let's move further. So this is the diagram that is in front of you. In this diagram, we can clearly see that our demand curve is a normal downward sloping demand curve, right? And as soon as your price level falls, this is for good X only, for good X, price of good X, quantity of good X. If your price level starts to fall, according to law of demand, your demand level will rise. Price is falling, demand is rising. And again, once you consume more of one good, your marginal utility will start to fall, your marginal utility will start to diminish, and as you consume more of good, your mu will start to fall. So you have to link both of these diagrams together. Everything clear? Right. Now let's do an MCQ question here. All right, so here you'll find an MCQ question which is a bit tricky one. Now you see that the question goes something like this, that examiner has given you his income level, that you have $5, and you have two options. One is chocolate, the other one is fruit. And the examiner is asking you the best way you can spend your $5. How much should you spend on fruit and how much should you spend on chocolate? All right. So the price of chocolate is $1 and the price of fruit is $2, right? And the examiner has given you the number of units and your marginal utility. This is your quantity and this is your mu. Now, the quantity is 1, 2, 3, 4, 100, 80, 60, 40. This is your mu. As for fruit, quantity, mu. 1, 2, 3, 4, and we have 120, 60, 40, 20, something like this, right? Now, examiner is asking you how much should you spend on chocolate and how much should you spend on fruit. Now you see, whenever gives you this statement, mu, only mu, this is just to confuse you, that the student, they will think that the fruit has a higher utility than chocolate. A rational consumer never bases his judgment on mu alone. He focuses on utility per price. So you'll have to calculate utility per price yourself. Mu at $1. You'll have to calculate it yourself. And for fruit, what is the price? Mu at $2. Right? Now, you'll divide the utility with its price to calculate utility per price. So 100 divided by 1. Utility per price from chocolate is 100. Then 80 divided by 1, it is 80. 60 divided by 1, 60. 40 divided by 1, 40. Now same you'll do for fruit as well. 120 divided by 2. 120 divided by 2 because the price of fruit is $2. 60. 60 divided by 2, 30. 40 divided by 2, 20. And 20 divided by 2, 10. Now for comparison, you will use these values, not this, not this. What will you do? You'll cut out these figures, cut them. Now the comparison will only be based on these figures, right? On these figures alone. Now, let's say Mark has $5. Mark goes to a market and he has two options, either to buy chocolate or fruit. Mark will compare the first 2 units of chocolate and fruit. The utility per price from fruit is 60 and utility per price from chocolate is 100. Mark, which one will you buy first? Which one will you buy first? You'll buy fruit. Utility per price from chocolate is 100. Utility per price from fruit is 60. Which one will you buy first? You'll buy chocolate, right? Because chocolate has a higher satisfaction rate. So you'll buy chocolate. So the first dollar you will spend on chocolate, right? You had one chocolate bar. Now the other chocolate bar that you will consume will give you a less satisfaction. So now the satisfaction per price from the chocolate bar is 80 and satisfaction per price from fruit is 60. Devansh, which one will you buy? Devansh, what will you buy? Fruit or chocolate? According to the case. Chocolate, very good. Because satisfaction per price from chocolate is greater than fruit again. You'll buy another chocolate. You had 2 bars of chocolate up till now. Then MU will hit you. Law of diminishing marginal utility, it will start to fall. Now satisfaction per price from chocolate is 60, whereas satisfaction per price from fruit is 60. Now they are both equal. Just because chocolate is a bit cheap, I'll say that I'll buy another chocolate. I'll go for another chocolate, right? I have spent $3 up till now. I am done with 3 chocolate bars. Now, satisfaction per price from chocolate, satisfaction per price from fruit. Mark, which one will you buy now? Fruit, very good. Because the satisfaction per price from fruit is greater than satisfaction per price from chocolate. So the remaining $2 that you are left with, you will spend on fruit because the price of fruit is $2. So how have you distributed your amount of money? You have spent $3 on chocolates and you have spent $2 on fruit. So you just told examiner that you should spend $3 on chocolate and you should spend $2 on fruit. Everything clear? Now, we are going to attempt a past paper question, paper 4 question. Can you guys open up the portal and keep the notes in front of you? All right. This is the question. This is a 20-mark question. And it is from one of the recent papers. What I want you to do is keep the notes in front of you, right? Read the question. I'm giving you 10 minutes. It's 5:42. I will discuss the question at 5:50. I'm giving you 8 minutes. Go through the chapter, keep the notes in front of you, read the question and make pointers in sequence that how will you start your answer, what will you define first, what will you do then, what will be the diagrams that you will draw in your exam, all right, and how will you conclude your answer. This is how you have to make a pattern of your question. All right, I'm giving you 8 minutes only. Go for it. Now let's discuss the question. It's a 20 marker. You guys know how examiner checks your answer. Now it's very important to understand the question first. Now it's October November 24, paper 42. Evaluate whether marginal utility theory can fully explain the link between the changing price of a good and quantity demand of that good. Now the question is asking you about the marginal utility theory, that whether it can fully explain the link between the changing price of a good and quantity demand of that good. Overall, what I can say is that whatever we have learned up till now, you have to write a summary in this answer. It's a very basic question, right? So what you will do is, because you have to highlight some key factors first. Marginal utility theory, the first thing. Second thing, link between price and demand. This diagram, the answer is asking for this diagram, where you're linking your demand curve with your utility curve. Now let's read the mark scheme. 14 marks for AO1 and AO2. Define and explain marginal and total utility. Link with diminishing marginal utility. You'll draw the table. And diagram of MU and TU. This complete portion. Right? Not these diagrams. Individual diagrams are not allowed. This complete table, this complete diagram, linking it with the law. Now, link with diminishing MU, diagram of MU and TU. Link with equimarginal principle, because we are linking utility with price. So we are linking the proper definition of rational consumer, the one who aims to maximize his satisfaction given the price he pays, satisfaction per price that he receives after consuming a good or a service, satisfaction per price, MU over P. So we are comparing two goods, MUX over PX equals MUY over PY, equimarginal approach, complete summary of this concept that we just learned right now, right? Impact of price change. If price level falls, utility per price will rise, right? And your demand will rise. You'll link normal demand curve with your MU. This diagram that I was talking about, this diagram, you'll draw the diagram and you'll explain the diagram. Law is same for normal and inferior, but not for given. What is this statement? Leave this statement for now. Leave this statement for now. I will tell you about this statement later on in our classes. Do you guys understand AO1 and AO2? Is there any problem in AO1 and AO2? Everything fine? Everything clear? Divansh, clear? Divansh, everything clear? Now let's move towards the evaluation. The question was asking you to tell the examiner that is the link between demand and utility that you have learned, is it proper or not? Is it accurate or not? Now, for evaluation, marginal utility theory helps understand why people demand more when price falls. Now, this is very basic law of demand, that because you're getting more satisfaction per price from it, you are demanding more goods because the price level is falling. It is based on the idea that each extra unit gives less satisfaction, so people won't pay the same price for more. Now, listen to this statement very carefully. For example, let's say a chocolate, the price of chocolate is $10, and the first chocolate bar that I eat gives me 100 utils. So this gives me satisfaction per price of 10. Now, this is the first unit. Now, if I go for the second unit, my price is still the same, but my satisfaction per price, my overall satisfaction is falling. So now my satisfaction per price is 9. So the statement is saying that because your marginal utility is falling, people are not willing to pay the same $10 for that chocolate because they are not getting enough return from it. The satisfaction per price is falling. So in order to attract customer, what the producer needs to do is he needs to decrease his price level. So now satisfaction per price again is 10. So in order to attract customers, we need to reduce our price level so our satisfaction per price stays the same or it increases. Are we clear up till this statement? Everything clear up till this now? Devansh, are you there? Yeah. Then, however, the theory assumes all consumers act logically and have perfect information, which is not true in real life. Many people are influenced by advertising, habits, and emotions rather than careful calculations. Now, the statement that this theory acts against a person who has perfect information, who has perfect knowledge, for him there is no difference in quality or feedback. Now, for that person, that person does not exist in reality. Now, no one has a perfect information in this world. No one has, no one acts logically all the time, because we are attracted towards advertising. We base our decisions on advertising, on feedback, on habits, on emotions. So this is where the theory is wrong. Also, marginal utility is hard to measure because satisfaction is a feeling, not a number. The theory does not explain given goods well. What is a given good? Leave this point, I'll tell you later on. It also ignores differences between people. For example, how much value a poor person places on money is not the same as a rich person. Finally, this theory doesn't work for big one time purchases like houses where utility is not spread across many units. Now, listen to me very carefully. This statement, rich person and poor person, this statement is very important. For example, $100 note, $100 note. $100 might be a very big amount for someone who is very poor or for someone who is unemployed, right? But $100 is a very small amount for a person who earns millions of dollars in a year, right? So for that specific person, $100 bill is a very small amount. Money has its own satisfaction. There is a satisfaction involved when we talk about money, because 100 rupees are nothing for me, 100 rupees worth nothing to me. But my building's security guard, my apartment security guard, for him that 100 rupees is worth a lot of satisfaction, right? Because he can spend that 100 rupees for his family. He can buy milk, he can buy grocery, a small amount of grocery from 100 rupees. But for me, 100 rupees don't matter, which means that every person gets different level of satisfaction from money. So the satisfaction of money is not the same for everyone, because someone is poor, someone is rich, right? So this is how for a poor person, satisfaction from money will be very high, but for a rich person, it will be very low. And also, utility cannot work for big one time purchases. Now, for example, if I buy a house, I buy a huge house, I will not be able to divide my satisfaction. I will not be able to say that I get more satisfaction from room A, or this is the amount of satisfaction that I get from room A, and this is the amount of satisfaction I get from room B. If I buy a car, I cannot say something like I get this amount of satisfaction if I sit on this seat, and if I sit on this seat, my satisfaction will get lower. If I sit on passenger seat, my satisfaction is high. If I sit on driver's seat, my satisfaction is low. It's a very dumb approach. It's a very dumb thing to say. For conclusion, overall, marginal utility theory is a useful way to explain why demand decreases when the price falls. Yet, yes, it is a basic law of demand that if your price level falls, your demand will rise. But it cannot fully explain all consumer behavior, especially when emotions, advertising, income level, or unusual goods are involved. So, while it gives a good basic understanding, it is not enough on its own to fully explain demand in the real world. So overall, theoretically, you can say that this overall theory of demand is good in books, but in reality, it's very different. In reality, is very inaccurate, because in real life, there is no such person as a rational consumer, and there is no one who can measure his satisfaction. Everything clear? Done?